Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, we're going to talk about whether Jalen Milroe can survive KALEN Deboer at Alabama, and I have my questions about that. Also, I want to talk about who's going to bring us a national championship at Tennessee. Is it going to be Dalton Connect, or is it going to be Nico? Because I'm guaranteeing you one of them will get a national championship.
Really?
No, not really. I can't back that up.
Okay, yeah, I really can't back that up. But I think they both have a legitimate shot. So we're going to talk about both those big issues. Now, with the retirement of Nick Saban, which was huge, it was a game changer, it was really an issue of who was going to take what is considered a coveted job. It's not as coveted as the Alabama people think it is. A lot of the reasons why Alabama is considered such a great job is because of what Nick Saban did. And we saw that with the recruiting when we saw so many kids transfer out. Literally 4 or 5 stars transferred out, including the #1 quarterback, which we're going to talk about him a little bit here in a minute, which is Julian Sayin, because he transferred out because one of the things we're going to talk about. And Alabama's like, well, we think we got a pretty good coach. We're pretty pleased about it. And I think they got a real good coach. He's an X's and O's guy. Can he recruit like Nick Saban did?
How about no, Scott, okay?
Because nobody can. That's ridiculous, some of the stuff that Nick Saban was able to pull off without a ton of money. But he will be able to recruit better than he did at Washington. But one thing nobody's talking about or nobody seems to care about, what do you think the Washington fans felt like when KALEN Deboer left for Alabama?
Oh, no, no, no.
They were sick. I can just tell you, because I've communicated with them through comments and all this, social media, they're very unhappy. They're sick about it. They loved KALEN Deboer. So Alabama should be appreciative of the fact that they took a really good coach. And I think he'll be successful. Nobody's going to be Nick Saban, though. You cannot win 6 natties out of 17 years. That's not going to happen. But they do need to figure out what they're going to do at the QB spot. And there's a lot going on with that. Now, here are the current quarterbacks that are on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, a couple of these guys, I believe, are just walk-ons, but Dylan Lonergan actually is a pretty darn good quarterback. They're kind of excited about him. Jalen Milroe is obviously the starter. Julian Sayin is gone, and we're going to talk about his replacement. And then Ty Simpson is still there, which shocks me. I don't know what he's doing there. But KALEN Deboer brought in his own quarterback, which is this young man, Austin Mack, who is actually a very high-end quarterback. He was listed around 56th to 73rd in the country, so he was a very high 4-star. 247 had him listed as the #8 quarterback in the country when he was brought in. Now, this guy's 6'6", and he's now around 235 pounds, and he's got a rocket for an arm. He's really got a nice arm, and he's a great big dude. He's ready to play. Now, he's already been in the Washington system for 1 year. He will be a sophomore this year, but he's the same age as Julian Sayin, which is 18. He came in early. Well, Julian saw him and went, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to compete directly with a guy that's been in the system for a year, which is their coveted dude. And I think that became pretty obvious to him. So he went to Ohio State, which is where a lot of really good players for Alabama went. Caleb Downs, for example, and a bunch of them went elsewhere, Florida State, etc. But Austin Mack fits the mold of a Deboer offense. And KALEN has had a great offense everywhere he's been. The last couple of years, he's had the #1 passing offense in the country at Washington with Michael Penix Jr. He also had a terrific offense at Fresno State. As a matter of fact, his quarterback wound up getting drafted in the 4th round in the NFL. And we're going to talk about the difference in quarterbacks, because I'm not convinced that Jalen Milroe is going to make the grade when it comes to a Deboer offense. I don't think he fits that mold very well. Milroe is more of a running quarterback. He likes to run. Now, he likes to throw too, but he's more of a 50-50 guy, whereas Deboer likes guys that want to throw the ball 80-90% of the time and run when they only need to or when it's planned. And I think one of the reasons that Milroe gets sacked a lot is he's not making the best decisions quick enough, and that puts a lot of pressure on his offensive line. Now, granted, Deboer will try to work with him and fix some of the problems and turn him into a throwing quarterback first and then take advantage of his legs. So I'm not saying that Jalen Milroe won't be the starting quarterback and then won't keep it the whole year. He might very well, but he also might not, because he is not a perfect fit for this system. I'm going to show you the last 2 quarterbacks that he's had over a 4-year span, and this will show you what actually is a Kalen Deboer quarterback. Now, Deboer had Jack Hayner at Fresno State for 2 years. And you'll see right here, he threw for 4,000 yards, and he only played in 10 games his senior year. He must have gotten hurt. He threw for just under 3,000. But his best year, where he played all 13 games, he threw for 4,100 yards. Now, let me show you how much he ran. Right here, he ran for 5 yards in 21 and negative 123 yards in 22. Now, realize that includes sacks. Whenever you see a rushing yardage for a quarterback, it's always a lot more than that, but they take sacks into account. So that negative 123, that probably included a bunch of sacks. All right, now we're going to look at Michael Penix Jr., who was not good enough for UT for some reason. He wasn't talented enough, according to Jeremy Pruitt.
You serious?
Let's see, he went to a couple different places. He wound up in Washington. And let's see, he threw for 4,600 yards and 4,900 yards in two seasons. So what's that? Almost 9,400 yards in 2 years. And let's see how much he ran. As you can see here, he ran for 92 yards and he ran for 8 yards. So as you can see, a Deboer offense doesn't have a lot of QB rushing to really speak of. He wants his quarterbacks to stay on their feet. He doesn't want them to get hurt, and he wants them to be very accurate with their arm, because he's going to scheme it to where you're going to get open. He does a lot of bubble screens that wind up running through the gap. He has a lot of movement pre-snap, and it's a very complex offense to keep up with for the defense. He's going to get guys open. And the key to that is he always has a really good offensive line that gives his quarterback some time. That's how Michigan beat them. They put so much pressure on Michael Penix Jr., even though there was clearly open wide receivers. You could see him. There was 2 touchdowns that he missed because there was a guy literally in his face. And Michigan did a great job of scheming guys to get to the quarterback, and they never let him get comfortable. That was pretty genius on Michigan's part to put that much pressure. They did the same thing to Milroe. They wore him out. And also, Alabama still probably would have won the game if not for some really bad snaps that really threw them off their game. Maybe. You never know. They might have still lost the game. But putting pressure on a quarterback is really key if you're going to stop Deboer. If you let the quarterback sit back there, he's going to pick you apart if he's accurate and he's on time. That's the 2 things about a Deboer offense. You've got to have a guy that's on time and very accurate. I don't think Milroe fits that mold. Now, here's the thing about Deboer. He's a smart dude. He might figure out, you know what, I need to use this guy's legs more and use him more as a running quarterback and adjust his offense to that. That can happen, but it's probably not his preference. His first choice is to have a guy that fits his offense because it's been so successful. Why would you change something when you're killing it? When you've got the #1 passing offense in the country? Well, sometimes you have to. Well, that's why he brought in Austin Mack. Austin Mack fixed that mold. The question is, would he be ready his sophomore year? He's also got a couple other guys over there. Ty Simpson needs to get out of there. He needs to transfer. He's the odd man out, in my opinion. He's also got the other quarterback, Lonergan, that people are fairly high on. He might fit the mold as well. Maybe Simpson's waiting to see. He may be thinking I fit the mold. But let's take a look at Milroe's numbers. Last year, he threw for 2,800 yards, so that's about 1,200 to 1,500 yards less than what a Deboer quarterback usually throws for. But if you look at his rushing numbers, of course, he did only played partially his freshman year, but the last year he ran for 531 yards, and that includes sacks. And he was hurt for 3 games with a hammy. So he is very much a running quarterback. But actually, what I did to make it super easy for you is I put together charts so you can easily see the difference in the quarterbacks. And here's the difference in the rushing totals. As you can see, Hayner, he was basically a negative runner. He was pretty much a pocket passer who ran occasionally. Penix was the same way. Then you got Milroe over here, who's a big-time runner. And you can see the difference so clearly. And he wasn't even the starter this year. And even when he wasn't the starter, he had way more yards than these guys. These guys basically netted 0. And I really think this 531 would have been closer to 800 or 900 had he not been hurt for that 3 or 4 game span. Now I'm going to show you the difference in the passing numbers. And like I said, it's just on a simple chart. As you can see, Milroe at 2,800 yards, Hayner at 4,000, and Penix at 4,900. So that's a huge, huge difference in offense. But what got me thinking of this was Coach Jay the other day. I heard him mention that he wasn't sure that Milroe was really right for this system. And normally he's kind of on to things. A lot of times you'll see him on Talking Vols. So I started investigating this a little bit, and I watched some film breakdown of a Deboer offense and how it breaks down the defense. And it's all about accuracy and timing. You've got to have those two things. Running is something they do occasionally, but it's more to keep the defense honest. Whereas with Milroe, you're going to need to run the ball quite a bit. He will have to change his offense. It's not going to work effectively with a quarterback who's not as accurate. And Milroe is not as accurate as Michael Penix Jr. or Haener. He's just not. And he's probably never going to be. That's kind of something you're just either good at or you're not. But those other two guys will never run the way Milroe can. Milroe is a fantastic runner, and he's aggressive and a mean runner.
I was running.
So he does have some big positives. I just don't know this is the right offense for him. Will Deboer change the offense to adjust to him? Or is he going to say, you're going to have to adjust to me? And if you can't, I got this kid over here, Austin Mack, who's ready to go, who I've already had in the system for a year. Or maybe I can work with one of these other guys who might be more accurate and better at timing. So this is going to play out in the spring, big time. I'm sure we'll have somebody transfer out. I think it's going to be Ty Simpson, but we'll see. You know, he was a big-time recruit and chose Alabama. And at some point, you know, you can't sit on the bench for years and years and years. Now we're going to talk about Nico, Iamaleava, and also Dalton Knecht. Can one of those guys bring us a national championship? I feel really good about both. The odds of winning a natty, though, are so low that can you get one? Dalton Knecht might be the best college basketball player in the nation. If he's not, he's in the top two, maybe top three, worst case scenario. He scored over 25 points 5 games in a row in the SEC. He scored a bunch of points on the road, over 25 points multiple times on the road. So it doesn't matter where he plays. He scored 32 at Vanderbilt, which is really a hard shooting gymnasium. If you've ever seen how it's set up, it's the weirdest thing in the world. No gym is set up that way. It's just odd. And it throws off shooters sometimes. Well, he got himself dialed in the second half and went off. But I really like our chances with him. He's a mismatch nightmare. Nobody can play him one-on-one because of his height and his physical skills and the fact that he can shoot the three-pointer and he can drive on you and he can shoot the mid-range. You're not going to stop him. You can just got to try to contain him. And when you double team him, then he's really going to hurt you because then it's 4 versus 3, and we talked about that yesterday. He is definitely a guy that can give you a deep run in March because this is a tournament game. Let's just call it what it is. Basketball is a tournament game. And how you do in March is what really matters. Now, I love winning the SEC or even the SEC tournament. It's really fun, but it's not the thing you remember. You remember, did you make a Final Four, or did you make the Elite Eight, or did you win a Natty? I can tell you Tennessee will be a very dangerous team, especially if they get a 1 or a 2 seed. Right now, we would be barely out of the 1 seed. Well, I think we're ranked 5th. If we can get a 1 seed, that makes it very easy to get in the Sweet 16 because you're going to play a number 16 seed. You'll beat them. Then you're going to play the number 9 seed. So you're going to be much better than both those teams. And with the Dalton Knecht, as long as he stays healthy, you're probably in the Sweet 16. Then it's just a matter of the ball going in the hole. Who gets hot, who doesn't. But you're still going to have the advantage all the way to the Final Four. So that's why rankings do still matter. But he's going to be here 1 year. Then he's going to be in the NBA. He's a lottery pick. Whereas with Nico, we've got 2 years with him. Now, I've never seen a quarterback better suited for this offense than Nico. It's a perfect marriage. You've got a guy with great arm skills, the ability to run, and the ability to make quick decisions. He's a really smart dude. That's what you want in a Heupel offense. That offense gives you an advantage. It just flat out does. And we saw that with Hendon Hooker, who was really a great athlete, but he had been benched at Virginia Tech. He comes in here to the Heupel offense, all of a sudden, he's a Heisman hopeful. Well, imagine what you're going to do with the number 1 recruit in the country from 2023. And oh, by the way, we just got another 5-star in George McIntyre because that's what this offense does. It attracts the elite quarterbacks because they want to succeed and they see how much fun it is.
The elite, best of the best. We'll make it better.
So Nico probably has the better chance because he's got 2 years at it. And some people will say 3. He'll be in the NFL his senior year, barring some unforeseen injury. So I'm going to give Nico the advantage there because he's got 2 shots at it. But I like our chances. I really feel like with these key guys that we have a legitimate shot at winning a national championship. You know, that's what you play for. That's what you want. You want to get in the playoff. You want to get in the Sweet 16. You want to get to the Final Four. You want to get in this 12-team playoff for sure. And I think Nico can get us there. And then once we're in that playoff, look, anything can happen. And nobody's going to want to face our offense if we're clicking like we were in 2022. They're just not. We are very dangerous, and we know it.
That's right. Nice, man. I am dangerous.
So it's going to be very interesting to see. But I am going to lean towards Nico on this again because of the odds. So that's who I think will bring us a national championship if we get one at all. And these are just some of the things I wanted to talk about today. It's the off season. You get to kind of look around and see what interests you. And I thought it might be something y'all want to hear about. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover my Vols, the SEC, of course, all the big news. If you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Just hit this little button. I'd appreciate it. It costs you nothing and it helps me out. And right over here is most recent video. YouTube, thanks, you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.